The Awakening of the Chosen. Deeper into the awakening of the spirit, we are instantly surrounded by an intriguing and apparently contradictory idea. Strength comes from vulnerability. Particularly in relation to spirituality, this is a topic that speaks to us profoundly in our bodies. When we consider the selected ones, such legendary characters as Harry Potter or Superman, we instantly connect with them a kind of invulnerability, an unbreakable will in the face of any obstacle. These mythological individuals so abound in the stories we adore. The screenplay, however, asks us to explore the underlying layer of frailty that resides within these remarkable people and get beyond their heroic facade. This reminds me much of all of us that even those who appear to be invincible have inner emotional storms, just like us ordinary people. This strategy offers us a unique chance to reinterpret strength and power. Many times, society instructs us to control our feelings and to present a stoic front against hardship. But what if, as the selected ones might discover, these times of emotional release provide us strength? Often seen as a sign of weakness, tears are reinterpreted here as a transformational agent. This invites us to consider more generally the nature of our own spiritual and emotional travels. It's interesting how a type of real power shows up when we let ourselves communicate our vulnerabilities, something not found in denial or suppression. Suggesting that these tears of the selected have the power to change the fabric of the cosmos, the screenplay plays on a symphony of concepts that appeal to our grasp of reality. It gets me to consider how our own feelings affect the surroundings. Being real with others and ourselves has great strength even if we may not possess the cosmic abilities of a chosen one. Many spiritual traditions that hold that the cosmos reacts to our emotions and that our inner condition shapes outside reality find resonance in this idea. In this regard, letting us assist to shine the darkness we sometimes experience. We cannot overlook the great aspect of the theory that the emotions of the selected ones might set off cosmic events of dimensions. Thinking about a tear, something so little and human, forces us to rethink cause and effect in conventional sense. This helps us to consider our part in the wider order of things. Although we may not be able to move mountains in our daily lives, we could have overlooked the influence of our little deeds and feelings from this point of view, knowing that we may be linked to something much more, even in our most private and reflective times, adds innate beauty. This moment helps us to see the suffering of the selected in the odd perspective. This is a connection with the very core of what it is to live really, not just a voyeuristic study of sensitivity. Seeing these strong leaders in their shattered times gives us permission to also be flawed, as it provides a mirror reflecting our own path of self-discovery and acceptance. This resonance may inspire us to explore ourselves, to boldly face our emotional obstacles, and to realize that every aspect of ourselves, including the most hardest to accept, is totally worthwhile. The way the screenplay examines the emotional disclosures of the selected ones also has nearly terrible dimensions. This feature helps us to face the fundamental fragility of the human predicament and to realize that even the most basic impulses have complexity and value. This helps us to start seeing our own challenges as chances for spiritual development and transcendence. It implies that we should investigate our own emotional depths as doors to become richer versions of ourselves instead of fearing or avoiding them. Because it is in the fall of the chosen ones that we come to see every one of us may undergo rebirth. Standing on the brink of this narrative abyss, we are forced to realize that the tales of these great people are symbolic mirror images of our own inner development. This is a road of self-discovery and acceptance as much as a trip throughout the mythical worlds. We support one another to meet our own spiritual conundrums while we explore the emotional difficulties of the selected ones. The great lesson here is that, given acceptance with openness and compassion, all subtleties of human feeling may be articulated. The lesson is that rather than battling our emotions, real spiritual development often calls for our surrender to their flow. This story helps us to see how we may rethink the lines of our everyday life. We get motivation to more deliberately handle our own tensions when we realize that the selected ones have inner conflicts. This event reminds us that, when let free, emotion has the power to transform our perspective of the planet we live on and ourselves. This is not isolated. Rather, it is an echo of what many spiritual traditions have told us throughout the years, that actual power comes from unwavering acceptance of every aspect. Have you ever stopped to wonder why, despite all your achievements, it feels like something essential is still missing? My name is Gabriel, and I've helped countless people like you discover the true spiritual power that resides within them. And today, I want to help you. If you feel like life is passing by while something important remains out of place, maybe it's time for an awakening. My audiobook, The Path of the Chosen, was created precisely for those who have reached this point. In this audiobook, I guide you to feel that enthusiasm for living in alignment with what truly matters, knowing that every step has meaning. Together, we'll transform your fears, traumas, and frustrations into powerful strengths that propel you to a new level of growth. Leave behind the feeling of spiritual isolation and find the peace of a true, constant connection with a greater energy that has always been by your side. Instead of fighting against what you feel, you'll learn to find purpose, serenity, and self-discovery to fill your inner world. This could be the beginning of a fuller, more meaningful life. I've seen it happen for so many others, and now it's your turn. Don't let this opportunity slip by. Click on the link pinned in the first comment and begin this journey with The Path of the Chosen. This is your chance to fill what's missing and finally live the life you deserve. I'll be waiting for you there. Of our life. Knowing this will help us to break free from constrictive ideas and open the path towards completeness and honesty. The way the tales of the selected ones interact with our daily life gives us a novel perspective on what it is to be really alive and present on this planet that continuously tests us. We may see emotional scars as our roadmap rather than as cause for anxiety. They start to be witnesses to our own development and change. When absorbed, this profound awareness gives us resilience and great compassion for others as well as for ourselves. This exploration of the emotions of the selected calls to us all, a summons to become more attentive and deliberate on our spiritual paths. The concept that our emotions, in all their complexity, are not something to be hidden, but rather a strong guidance for both individual and group growth, is something both freeing and also demanding. We may let ourselves feel and develop with an honesty that resets our perspective of what it really means to live completely and fearlessly as we keep exploring these issues. Awakening the spirit presents us with an appealing invitation ultimately. Thus, we may let ourselves be receptive to the idea that latent potential for a different way of living exists within every tear and in every vulnerable moment. Working with our emotional depths is a trip everyone can take, not just a luxury of the selected in legendary stories. In human connection and acceptance of our shortcomings, we might discover a strength meant to bring about major transformations, not just in our inner world, but also resonating across the whole reality we work to build. It is a global as well as a personal idea. According to him, every one of us on our own road is also a protagonist in the narrative of the change in collective awareness. Every thread of feeling, every touch of vulnerability, threads itself into the grand fabric of human experience within the wide panorama of life, following patterns of change and spiritual progress. Embracing and respecting everything we are, even the aspects most raw and vulnerable to us. Since it is just there, at the core of our exposed frailty, the most effective instrument for actual change is found. Here, the scream that bends the universe invites us to consider the actual character of the selected tears and how much cosmic potential each drop contains. When we take this idea into account, we see that the tears these renowned people shed transcend simple melancholy expression. Like if the cosmos were bowing beneath the weight of the emotions they reflect, they are receptacles of enormous, almost tangible energy that permeates everything around. Every tear seems to narrate the life of the chosen one, capturing the weight of expectations, the fleeting losses and sacrifices defining their paths. The idea that one drop of water may have so much force is amazing. It shows up as bits of the most pure representation of the human predicament. This concept helps us to examine how time itself appears to act abnormally at times of great emotional intensity, striving to reorganize itself to suit the meaning of the moment. Tears have this power to envelop the surroundings and its occupants in a blanket of universal gloom that spans personal anguish to reach a collective essence of misery. Many people find that these events show up as disturbing déjà vus or periods of unearthly gloom. This phenomena suggests that the existence of such rips changes the fabric of reality around us, therefore challenging logical knowledge. This perspective pushes us to consider closely how much of our own emotions could affect not just our local surroundings, but also the cosmos at a larger scale. Moreover, these tears have always transforming ability. They not only capture the inner conflicts of the selected ones, but also inspire natural developments and disclosures. They may activate latent abilities or call up dormant predictions, therefore bringing hidden facts to the surface. Knowing that this encounter might release potential we never realized we had motivates us to think about the relevance of confronting our own inner truths, regardless of their unpleasant or demanding nature. Like the selected ones, our development usually relies on our readiness to go through these strong emotional events and learn from them. One profound lesson right here is the value of the strength found in vulnerability. We are reminded by the tears of the selected that even those who seem to be the most strong among us are subject to the natural constraints of the human condition. Examining the contradictory character of these tears helps us to see that real strength comes from realizing and embracing these limitations. This knowledge that one may bend without breaking provides a useful viewpoint on how hardship could act as a spur for spiritual rebirth and rejuvenation. When they at last show themselves, the selected ones are changed, wiser, and stronger, enhanced by the knowledge of having confronted their own deep depths. This moment invites us to consider our interaction with the feelings and events that test us. Can the tears we weep also reveal progress and beauty? We are reminded that vulnerability is not a weakness, but rather a means of self-knowledge and development when we see these strong people give their own humanity over. This knowledge provides a road to a more real and linked existence, and may help us in our own quest for balance and harmony. The tears of the chosen show us that even although we could be pushed to our limits, it is possible to not only resist, but also flourish and come out of the experience knowing more of who we really are. In the end, we are meant to understand that our spiritual path depends on our acceptance of our vulnerability. This knowledge may help us to guide our life in rather significant ways. Deeper exploration of this moment reveals a universal and eternal resonance in experience of the chosen ones that profoundly connects our existence. Often representing suffering and fragility, tears are reinterpreted here as means of development and rejuvenation. Many spiritual traditions throughout the years have taught us that our interior development depends critically on our ability to face and welcome suffering. Seeing these legendary people becomes a profound metaphor for our own latent ability, only waiting to be awakened by acceptance of what makes us unique. Personal experience and cosmic effect point to a relationship wherein our life is spun into a fabric larger than we could completely understand. Every feeling, every tear creates waves in the cosmos that affect what is close as well as what is far away. It motivates us to think about how our everyday choices and emotions affect events outside of our immediate awareness. Starting to perceive our own emotional trip as part of a global tapestry, where every thread adds to the beauty and complexity of the whole, is something else. These thoughts remind us that, when we accept the richness of our emotional experience, we have the capacity, like the chosen ones, to bring about great and important changes. The secret is the bravery to confront whatever comes our way with integrity and compassion, for others as much as for ourselves. Finding significance in events that challenge our boundaries might offer doors to fresh approaches of living and being in difficult circumstances. Knowing and embracing our fragility as a natural component of our strength helps us to live more meaningfully and truly. The transforming character of the tears of the selected also enables us to see the changes in our life from another angle. Rather of worrying about the uncertainty transition might bring, we should let ourselves perceive these shifts as chances for spiritual development and personal rejuvenation. Every sensation and feeling becomes a step towards self-knowledge and a greater awareness of our role in the cosmos when seen spiritually. Engaging our spirituality and investigating these emotional aspects helps us to discover not just our personal potential, but also improve our relationships with others. The beauty of this story is in its capacity to remind us that everyone has the same human nature, regardless of our seeming strength or invulnerability ability. This basic awareness helps us to overcome the obstacles often separating us and fosters our oneness. Embracing the human condition in all its dimensions helps us to find a road of empathy and compassion that enhances us and connects us with each other. By means of our acceptance and expression of our feelings, we discover a common thread that ties us and exposes the fact that real transformations originate from the heart and spirit. The scream that bends the universe is essentially an appeal to embrace with bravery and transparency the whole range of our human experience. As we negotiate this road of spiritual development, we are urged to perceive our tears as gateways to fresh insight and rebirth, rather than just as expressions of suffering. Following the example of the selected ones and embracing our vulnerability will help us to start a significant and long-lasting change in our life and the surroundings. The paradox of strength and vulnerability pulls us into a deep dive into emotional complexity involving the chosen ones at this very time. In our society, we often see these people in myths and legends as models of perfect perseverance and total strength. We see them as always able to overcome any obstacle without doubt, and as nothing could break them. But when we go closer, we see that the tears of the selected have depth that cannot be overlooked. This phenomena questions our ideas as it suggests that real strength shows itself in the confidence to face difficulty rather than in the absence of sorrow. Considered perfect, even these entities go through emotional upheavals, and it is just this insight that renders us deformed and reveals the actual nature of the human situation. The tears of the selected draw attention to a special aspect of mankind. Far from suggesting frailty, these rips provide a glimpse into the depth and sincerity of their paths. It's amazing how vulnerable behavior helps us to see behind the inflated surfaces of excellence. Seeing these heroes suffering helps us to relate to them more profoundly, as it mirrors our own fear and optimism, our greatness and fallibility. When a chosen one dies, our conception of actual strength and resiliency gains fresh relevance. The capacity to feel profoundly overcome emotional obstacles and keep on battling even if the road appears to be unworkable fuels this power. It reminds us that real fortitude is in the acceptance and integration of all aspects of our existence. It is not just in the control of emotions. For those close to a chosen one, being at a time of such vulnerability may be transforming, almost disruptive. We have to reconsider what it means to be really strong and what the consequences are related to the image of heroism we usually project onto other people. Seeing this emotional collapse challenges our idealistic view of invulnerability by presenting a bare, visceral glimpse of the selected. And it begs a disturbing issue. Should even these pillars of strength collapse, what implications follow for the security systems we previously thought to be unquestionable? The path of the selected one helps us to examine not only them, but also ourselves. Unmeasured expectations are, we understand, reflections of our own fears and aspirations. This moment helps us to confront the reality behind the fiction by realizing that genuine power comes from realizing our own weaknesses and always striving to develop from them instead than from perfection. This awareness invites all of us to reassess what it is to be powerful and human at the same time, therefore guiding us toward authenticity in our own path. In the end, the selected ones are not only displaying their human nature, but also the actual power that comes from complete acceptance of their identity by showing us their tears and infirmities. Paradoxically, his most potent trait is his capacity to be totally human. This quality connects with every one of us as a reminder that the most enduring power comes from within. It transcends legends and tales. Accepting our own humanity as well as that of others will help us to find a new degree of understanding and connection, therefore enabling vulnerability to become the path to the actual power that everyone has. Deeper exploration of this subject will inevitably help us to see how closely our lives are entwined by this contradiction of strength and fragility. In a society that sometimes celebrates control over our emotions and invulnerability, the vulnerability of the selected provides us with a required and transforming perspective. She exhorts us to see that real mastery comes from living really and totally in sync with all our emotions, therefore shedding the mask of perfection. This knowledge releases us. Understanding that our emotions and experiences influence even the most strong leaders helps us to pardon our own shortcomings and restrictions. The human road is beautiful exactly in this duality. We are strong because we let our weaknesses bloom. We are resilient because we always get up rather than because we fall. This fresh viewpoint invites us to embrace compassion for others and ourselves, realizing that everyone in our life is looking for acceptance and significance. The selected ones demonstrate to us that, far from being obstacles, our shortcomings are links to a deeper and more real knowledge of who we are. The ability of this concept to change our perspective about ourselves and our relationship navigation may be transformative. Being vulnerable changes relationships not just between people, but also within groups, therefore fostering a degree of empathy and connectedness that is unusual and much needed. The tears of the selected consequently act as a strong reminder of the need of not suppressing our feelings. These times of transparency enhance rather than lessen our influence on the planet. They enable us to discover a more whole way of life when bravery is judged not by the absence of fear, but by the readiness to confront it. Vulnerability therefore becomes a spur for transformation, a force guiding us towards better knowledge and acceptance of the people around us and ourselves. The contradiction itself is an endless lesson. By exposing their weaknesses, the selected do not reduce their position. Rather, they elevate it, demonstrating that actual excellence is discovered in the whole of human experience. It is in this complexity that we discover our capacity for development and inspiration, not despite our flaws, but rather via them. This insight not only redefines strength, but also confirms our trust in resilience and the capacity for overcoming. The concept that our greatest strength resides in our complete acceptance of our humanity touches us right now. This acceptance opens the path for a sort of bravery and resilience, capable of really changing not just our inner world, but also the outside reality. The readiness to weep, feel, and develop starts this metamorphosis. Following the example of the selected ones invites us to welcome the totality of our life and discover beauty and purpose in every sphere of it. In this instant on The Ripple Effect, Tears as Weapons, we are confronted with the great force of tears of the chosen ones, who transcends basic emotional expression to become genuine forces of change in the fabric of reality. These tears have virtually gravitational force that violates the rules of the cosmos, and they are charged with amazing energy that creates waves that resonate well beyond the intents of individuals who shed them. This idea makes us reevaluate our impressions of human feelings and their possible influence on the planet. Driven by the emotional force and destiny of these unique people, the tears of the selected resemble invisible weapons. Tears wash or purify, but they also expose formerly secret flaws and restructure the relationships between everyone they touch. The way these tears work is rather transforming. It seems as if every drop may reveal secrets and inspire significant transformation. This capacity to affect life in such erratic ways challenges our conventional wisdom of cause and effect and reminds us that even the tiniest actions may have great and long-lasting effects. Tears frequently set off events that reveal latent powers lurking in the shadows, waiting for a signal to come to life. These tiers seem to be a key unlocking ancestral potential and realigning the cosmos in ways beyond our reach. Still, this capacity for enormous transformation is not something the selected deliberately control. From a moment of basic unhappiness or discouragement, individuals unknowingly set off a chain reaction that resonates like shock waves, changing personal and group reality. This forced accountability becomes a fascinating dichotomy, wherein the tiers of the selected are both a gift and a burden. These entities occupy a special area where their emotional fragility does not lessen their strength, but rather accentuates it in unexpected directions. The power these tiers convey emphasizes how naturally the selected maintain a capacity to change and affect the world even at their most vulnerable times. It reminds us strongly of the interdependence of our life and the fact that even our most private events could have group effects. This concept of connectivity and impact via tiers helps us to consider our own personal power and the way our emotions and behavior shape the surroundings. Though we may not be selected in the conventional sense, every one of us is a protagonist of our own life capable of starting change from apparently little events. Acknowledging the transforming power every one of us has can help us to become more conscious of our behavior and its effects on the group. The selected ones show us that hidden creative and transforming power exists even in sad or painful times. Like theirs, our tiers may help to transform the world by means of the truth and sincerity they bring, rather than by force. When we let our emotions run wild, we embrace the whole of our human experience and become agents of change and development, able to profoundly and meaningfully affect our life as well as the life of others. The most crucial lesson of this event is maybe that we have amazing power of impact and change right within our core. Even when we feel most delicate, our emotions, shown by real tiers, have the power to set off a series of events much beyond our comprehension. This knowledge may inspire us to live deliberately and completely, therefore embracing our part in the dynamic fabric of life. When we consider the effect of the selected tiers more closely, we start to perceive a strong parallel for human existence generally. With our words, deeds, and emotions, every one of us may to some degree generate waves of change. Every action and every tear dropped has the power to affect the surroundings in ways we may never completely control. This reminds us that every one of us has inner power that should not be undervalued even in the times when we feel most vulnerable or weak. This potential inspires us to live with greater purpose, knowing that our emotional condition, our manner of being in the world, has the power to favorably impact our life and the life of those around us. Tears as unseen weapons and transformation agents emphasizes the inherent worth of every emotional event. We are gently reminded that all emotions have a purpose, even in a society where we are often encouraged to suppress or diminish our feelings, particularly those seen as negative. We may find strength in letting our emotions show themselves really and naturally, rather than trying to stifle what we experience. This process deepens our awareness of our own path and strengthens our link to the shared experience of being human, therefore enhancing us. The experience of the selected ones also emphasizes for us the need of supporting others in their vulnerable and painful times. Understanding and appreciating the transforming power of tears will help us to establish secure environments where individuals feel supported and understood. Essential components for overcoming obstacles in life, a feeling of community and connection depends on this mutual support. By letting ourselves be vulnerable with others, we increase our ability for empathy and compassion, qualities that could help to create a more harmonic and understanding society. This event finally forces us to rethink the power and might of our own humanity. In reshining reality and impacting so many lives, the tears of the selected ones reflect our own capacity for transformation. They motivate us to explore the sea of our emotions closely and to not run from suffering or the changes that usually follow. Along with more inner serenity, when we accomplish this, we may also discover in the bigger framework of life a more expansive feeling of purpose and belonging. Ultimately, the power of the tears of the selected is a metaphor for the amazing gift every one of us has, the capacity to awaken and change the world just by being real to ourselves and our emotions. They inspire us to look beyond appearances, to acknowledge the great influence of our existence, and to believe that even the tiniest deeds may have great and amazing results. This knowledge helps us to be vulnerable, therefore enabling our inner light to shine in all its complexity and expose that actual strength is not in the absence of weakness, but in embracing and expressing the whole of who we really are. About emotional storms that shape reality, we are asked to consider the degree of the selected's emotions and how they affect the surroundings. When a chosen one lets oneself reach a level of vulnerability to the point of crying, the impact is profound and usually shows itself as an epic emotional storm. Their suffering transforms their emotional turbulence into events that immediately influence physical reality, resonating well beyond their inner selves. Nature is an active mirror reflecting back the degree of its suffering, not just a spectator. This helps us to understand that the human experience and the surroundings around us have a great and profound language. These natural expressions go well beyond basic climatic events. When a chosen one dies, the ground could shake and create fissures that stand for spiritual flaws. Storms may strike without warning, their thunder and lightning reflecting the suffering they contain. Even heavy rain shares the sorrow that overflows with their presence, like divine tears. And in such situations, the repressive stillness that usually accompanies or follows these outbursts may be as big as the storm. Reality itself seems to be veering off its usual path with respect to these strong emotions, generating a stillness that waits impatiently for events to develop. Every one of these natural responses acts as a strong metaphor for the degree of suffering and psychological turmoil the selected ones go through. They translate and expand their emotional experiences into nearly unthinkable magnitude events, therefore reflecting a type of cosmic language. This idea implies that, rather to what most people think, the lines separating emotional from physical are much more porous. The selected tiers have the power to rewrite the pre-established guidelines of the physical universe, therefore unfolding time and bending reality in ways that would test even the laws of physics we know. The volatility of these expressions emphasizes the overpowering and uncontrolled force of the emotions of the selected ones. Not even can they forecast, much less regulate, the extent and effects of their weeping. These turn into long-term choices with foreshadows of change that may either create or destroy the world they live around. The selected ones become powers beyond the human, nearly divine in their capacity to alter the world in their sorrow and fragility. This shows its capacity to do what appears unachievable, which makes us wonder about the actual extent of human potential under such strong emotional direction. The events reported here honor not just the emotional fortitude of the selected ones, but also the richness of human existence generally. They show how much our emotions, often underestimated or suppressed, have great power for development and innovation. They recall that one should not undervalue the great power that exists even in weakness. In this framework, we are reminded of the need of respecting our own internal storms and seeing the significance of emotions, not as simple shortcomings, but rather as fundamental components that link our own experience to the most vast cosmos around us. Eventually, the storms the selected tiers create encourage us to examine our own inner storms. They demonstrate to us that while fragility and strength have different powers, they may dwell peacefully inside of us. Deeper down, we are urged to welcome every feeling as natural on our road, as even painful events may lead to a fresh world full of potential and change. Knowing that our emotional trip is a mirror of the infinite possibility of change each of us has within ourselves, this acceptance pushes us to live with greater sincerity and bravery. Under this situation, it is clear that emotional experience is a complicated journey between the depth of feel and the capacity to change the surroundings rather than a straight road. This concept questions the conventional wisdom holding that emotions are just internal and devoid of effects in the physical world. Conversely, the emotional swirl of the selected shows how these emotions may transcend the inner realm, and show transformations in the fundamental fabric of reality. This implies a close relationship between the human person and the cosmos, wherein our emotions not only reflect, but also interact with the surroundings in a conversation that is both transforming and rather sensitive. The great link between the emotional and the physical stresses the responsibility each of us has regarding our emotions and their expression. Though at lower and more subdued levels, our own emotions have the power to shape our world, just as the tears of the selected shocks and storms do. This conscience helps us to pay more attention to what we feel, thereby honoring the influence that our emotions might have not only on ourselves, but also on others and on the planet we inhabit. Conscious and healthy integration of our emotions will help us to live peacefully and balanced, therefore promoting a world in which emotional events are seen as a source of knowledge and metamorphosis. The natural events arising from the emotional condition of the selected ones expose a natural beauty in human fragility. Often seen as cracks on our strong front, pain and grief are really doors through which we may reach a great degree of connection and expression. A show of bravery that strengthens our actual human character is letting oneself be vulnerable, crying, and facing emotional storms. We embrace our emotions and let stationary energy flow and change, clean and rejuvenate both within and outside of us. Tears' healing power reminds us that even the most difficult events may be spur for personal development and rejuvenation. Every tear of the selected conveys a hope and potential message. They teach us that every one of us has an unbreakable and continual wire of power, even if we appear to be at the hand of more strong powers than ourselves. When everything appears unclear during the storms, one might discover a basis in the inner self, a source of tranquility accessible independent of outside conditions. This holy spark within each of us is what connects with the selected tears and reminds us of our natural capacity to change, create, and transcend. Emotional storms are ultimately more about the limitless possibility to start afresh than about devastation. This viewpoint asks us to see each other and ourselves from a more sympathetic standpoint. Understanding that emotional storms are inevitable on the human path will help us to promote a society in which vulnerability is seen as strength rather than weakness. Establishing a more friendly and motivating atmosphere starts with encouraging honest talks about emotions and their many expressions. This forces us to look for better knowledge of our own emotions and lets us access the complex tapestry of events defining our life. Valuing our own feelings as well as those of others helps us to find a road towards a more holistic and real experience in which every way of expression of being is valued and loved. Dealing with strong emotions and embracing their expressions as natural part of life is an ongoing trip. The lessons the selected tears teach motivate us to go deeper and find the subtleties of our own emotional capacity. Understanding that vulnerability has beauty and power, we may follow a road of self-examining and spiritual development. Knowing that authenticity and emotional honesty are the actual shames of reality we wish to live, this acceptance of our inner storms opens space so that we be really ourselves, integer and unpromoted. Here we are led to great reflection, to use like the chosen ones, with their tears and the consequent cosmic upheaval, they act as mirrors for the human situation. Through them, what we see turns into a potent metaphor, reflecting our shared universal difficulties and problems. The energy coupled with the fragility of these remarkable people not only seems to accentuate their personal experiences, but also inspires us to consider our own feelings and part in the great cosmos. When one considers the amazing expressions that follow the vulnerable times of the selected ones, a quiet catalyst is set off. It not only upsets the physical surroundings, but also stimulates an inward activity among common people. This phenomena helps us to face the profundity of our own human experience. We are asked to go back to our ideas of fragility and optimism, anxieties and bravery, elements of ourselves we usually suppress in our everyday struggle just to exist. This self-discovery trip reminds us that embracing and knowing our humanity has great worth even during the more sinister times. These shared experiences of real feeling help to link the chosen world with the common one. Ties based on this fresh common awareness assist to narrow the gulf separating them. Once isolated or cut off communities discover new means of interacting and helping one another. This metamorphosis shows that we discover new healing capacity, personal and group levels, by realizing our strength as well as our fragility. Though it is an endless road, this one keeps us more sympathetic and broadens our perspective of what it entails. We engage in a transforming and instructive constant cycle of learning and development. The viewpoints and interpersonal interactions also subtly but strikingly alter when this emotional resonance gets out there. We are reminded that our emotional experiences might be connected to others, therefore establishing connection points before unknown. We are exposed to each other as well as to ourselves via the tears of the selected ones. This twofold fact emphasizes the need of empathy and underlines its basic relevance at the junction of our life and the development of the human society. The interaction with those who follow the selected ones changes into a symbiotic dance of learning and development as they go. This drives a constant linking that permeates the microcosm of personal tales and the macrocosm of the universal reality in which everyone lives, therefore catalyzing changes both personally and collectively. The subtle simplicity of our emotional entwining makes this discovery beautiful. We understand that while our most vulnerable times allow us to develop more strength, this power resides in our readiness to receive our emotions totally, rather than in our rejection or denial of them. By doing this, we discover not only a better awareness of ourselves, but also a bridge to others, therefore enabling a conversation that goes beyond words and shows itself in major deeds and presences. Driven by the tears of the chosen ones, who in their authenticity and depth lead us for a greater knowledge and a more real connection with the cosmos around us. Each of us travels this awakening to empathy and vulnerability. We start to see in this ongoing process of disclosure and introspection that the humanity of the selected ones directly reflects our own humanity. It teaches us to cherish every feeling as part of the enormous mosaic of human experience, because it shows how the power of introspection and sympathetic connection could drastically change the dynamics of our life and relationships. Our tales together remind us that, at last, we are all chosen, and each has the capacity to set off waves of change and understanding by the little but powerful act of authenticity. These teachings really connect with us as they transcend personal boundaries and inspire a mindful and loving awakening that fosters a global love including each of us. We explore the core of this spiritual awakening sparked by the selected ones and come to see that genuine power comes from our own bravery of showing our own nature. Although frightening, this genuineness offers access to a kind of connection that many times eludes us in the daily grind. Under this situation, vulnerability shows itself as an instrument of personal and group development rather than as a weakness. Mirroring in the selected tears, emotional communion wakes us to the significance of real presence and emotional bonds that bind us to a deeper level beyond all obvious obstacles. Capable of transcending time and distance, this emotional echo is a striking evidence of each of our natural ability to bring about major global transformation. It represents that, in spite of all the challenges and doubts we all encounter, each of us has an everlasting and radiant core that links us to the universal experiences of other human beings. This energy exchange reminds us that we are equally modest in our individual and grandiose in our collectivity, therefore challenging us to reconsider our part in the vast fabric of existence. This knowledge helps us to engage in the wonder of our life with fresh appreciation and goal in mind. The tears of the selected ones, by guiding our own emotional road, provide the foundation for an inner revolution resonant outside of ourselves. Deeper connection helps us to develop a caring presence for ourselves as well as for those around us, thereby embracing who we are free from judgment. We start to release the actual ability each of us has to be agents of change and healing in all spheres of our life by means of this acceptance. The spiritual trip these remarkable occurrences describe challenges our ideas of personal goal and identity. It motivates us to investigate the rich territory of human feelings and to welcome every experience as necessary for both individual and group development. Driven by the quiet wisdom flowing from the heart, we grow to perceive the remarkable in the everyday and discover beauty in every facet of our human path. We discover a naturally evolving freedom when we let ourselves explore and communicate the whole spectrum of our feelings. Ultimately, the cosmic expressions resulting from the selected tiers are rich metaphors that provide us a glimpse of the great power and possibilities every one of us has. They remind us that our power is in our capacity to dance in the rain, therefore embracing every aspect of human experience, in addition to our capacity to withstand the storm. In this never-ending cycle of insight and reflection, we are asked to travel side by side in an always changing flow of love, knowledge, and development. United by the unseen currents of empathy and understanding, we discover that each of us recognizes and accepts the divine inside ourselves, therefore defining our own identity as human. As we follow this story, we discover an unexpected flowering from the tears of the selected ones that starts to expose a fresh, blossoming harmony. A new order emerges within the turmoil and the upheaval he causes. This delicate equilibrium, which is now showing itself, is between great power and great sensitivity, not just of the selected ones, but also of those close by. The started change penetrates numerous strata of society and is not limited to people. Once fractured communities from conflicts and divisions start to discover fresh sources of connection. From the shared knowledge of emotional challenges, silent solidarity develops, and individuals realize that, despite their seeming differences, they have similar experiences that bind them. Until then, unity was thought to be unattainable. This mutual respect helps to foster it. What formerly drove apart us now becomes empathetic and understanding bridges. Under this framework, one reevaluates what it really means to possess authority. The world starts to accept the concept that real power comes from the capacity to feel strongly, as much as from the capacity to resist or conquer obstacles. One realizes that a necessary power is vulnerability and constructive navigation of these emotions. This new understanding of power is a reciprocal interaction between the selected ones and their supporters. The selected ones start to regard their tiers as essential components of their identity and purpose in the world, rather than as shortcomings that should be kept under secret. This group reflection redefines the fundamental essence of strength and motivates a subtle revolution in the way society regards and appreciates personal emotions. At the advent of this new peace, people discover creative methods to turn the effects of selected tiers into enterprises that benefit society generally. Once indicators of hopelessness, storms and symbolic earthquakes now become regenerating agents. They propel spiritual, social, and technological developments as well as technical ones, therefore helping to build a more resilient, inclusive, and caring planet. This is a magnanimous metamorphosis wherein suffering is turned into progress and empathy guides the route to a society more in line. Though the transformation that results is evident and offers promise for fresh approaches of human interaction, this development does not happen without work. The pinnacle of this moment is a time of optimism and promise that suggests that our continuing capacity to share, comprehend, and validate emotional experiences human is intrinsically related to the possibility for a better world, despite the hard journey, full of hurdles and hardship. Thus, the tears of the selected go beyond the phenomena of personal change and become a strong driver of society toward a more enlightened and harmonic future. The beauty of this literary monster is found in the notion that sorrow may be the spark-lighting transformation. Understanding and appreciating human sensitivity helps us to know that every tear may fertilize the ground for group development. This is a freeing insight, an encouragement to rediscover our common humanity in a society where we are constantly advised to ignore our emotions. Along the road we traveled, this metamorphosis is a simple homage to sincerity and the great force of human connection. Resignify the knowledge of power and personal and community development involves accepting our emotional history as a fundamental part of who we are, realizing that the waves generated by the deepest sobs go slowly, but leave a lasting effect. They are relevant in the society and create a living tapestry in which every one of us contributes as a constructive change agent. Ultimately, this story reminds us that despite surface divisions and apparent differences, we are all connected by the same invisible thread of human experience. Thus, it is this close and deep connection that guides us to a better future, whereby every tear or smile counts as a major note in the great symphony of life. We are urged to rethink our interactions with the environment and with one another in this just-found life tapestry. We come to see that our connectivity is deeper than we could have ever anticipated, and that the collective experiences of suffering, delight, and metamorphosis might help to create a more united world. We discover a fresh sense of direction by seeing the mirrors in our own life, which are reflections of the selected paths. All of this testifies to the basic truth that humans are a dynamic community of creatures with a shared experience rather than a set of separate individuals. The products of the new growing harmony are seen in many domains. People clearly alter in how they see and relate with their own emotions. As emotional relationships grow, and innovative alliances and projects aiming at the shared benefit result, communities thrive as well. Action and contemplation are always dancing together. Fresh events and difficulties fuel a deeper reflection, while spiritual discoveries lead to specific behaviors that support the social network. The moment reminds us that the largest transformations usually start within each of us as a little river progressively turns into a strong ocean of group transformation. When the fragility and strength of the selected ones affect us, our soul connects with an inherent truth. We can only really grow by means of acceptance and comprehension of our emotional experience. This is a call to all of us to examine our inner worlds and identify the aspects of ourselves that, while capable of causing harm, also heal. We create space for a quiet spiritual revolution that promises to transform our common life as we travel together towards a time when power is linked with empathy and vulnerability, is acknowledged as a source of strength. It is in the complexity of these emotional events that we find harmony, more certain than ever that we can create a society based on compassion and acceptance on which everything is elevated. This road is lively and full of possibilities. In the end, every one of us is a cell of a single organism, so the health of the whole rests on our capacity to feel, connect, and love. Though they represent personal and cosmic changes, the tears of the selected ones show that every feeling has a place, not as something to be afraid of, but as a necessary component of human development. Overcoming the difficulties of this time, we are shown a clear view. By telling our emotional memories, we not only heal, but also open the path to a fresh period of togetherness and understanding. This reminds us that we may begin creating a new harmony right here and now, not as far off a goal. Every decision we make to embrace our own self, and every choice we make to love in spite of obstacles further our shared path. We are remembered of our impact power, inviting every time to make a difference, developing solutions by empathy and real connection, and so fostering a more full and harmonic environment for us and the next generations.